Good morning. I'm Lisa Jones, Chair of the Board of Directors of Housing Development Partners, or HDP, and HDP Mason. It is 9:04 on December 5th, 2025, and I am calling to order the regular meeting of the HDP Board and the special meeting of the HDP Mason Board. We have a quorum with 4 board members present. I literally had to count. With 4 board members present, video of today's meeting is being streamed live online. The link to watch today's meeting is on HDP's website at www.hdpartners.org. Members of the public who wish to provide comments to both the HDP and HDP Mason Board will need to complete a speaker slip here in the boardroom and submit it to our Vice President of Communications, Scott Marshall, who is standing at the side of the boardroom. In a moment, I will propose placing item 100 from the HDP Board's agenda on a consent agenda today. Members of the public may provide comments about the items on the consent agenda by submitting a speaker request form for that item before the board considers the consent agenda. To speak in favor of any item on today's agenda, please submit the gold-colored form. To speak in opposition to any agenda item, please submit the pink-colored form. Those who wish to address the board about a topic that is not on the agenda should fill out a white speaker request form. This morning, we will be taking items out of order. First, we will consider property budgets, which are items 102 through 113 on the HDP agenda and item 100 on the HDP Mason agenda. Those will be followed by item 101 on the HDP agenda, which is HDP's 2026 operating budget. Members of the public will have 3 minutes each to provide their comments about agenda items or non-agenda public comments. However, if a large number of people wish to provide non-agenda public comments or speak on a single agenda item, I think we're probably not worried about that today, right? Comments will be limited to 1 minute each. Collective testimony by those who support or oppose an item shall be limited to no more than 15 minutes total per side. When I call your name, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, and begin making your comments. We will now move on to non-agenda public comments for both the HDP and HDP Mason boards. We're good? No speaker slips have been submitted, so this concludes non-agenda public comments. Board member comments. Next, I will ask if any board members would like to make any comments before we start the other items. Hearing none. I have one brief update for the board meeting this morning. On September 12th, 2025, HDP formally completed its exit from the Island Village Partnership. HDP previously served as the managing general partner, overseeing regulatory compliance, partnership operations, and welfare exemption filings. This board authorized HDP to exit the partnership on June 13th, 2024. The original exit date was set for December 31st, 2024. However, as I let the board know in January, the limited partners asked to extend the timeline as they sought lender approval to select a new nonprofit co-general partner. The additional time allowed for the formation of a new partnership with the Alpha Project. Although HDP has exited the partnership, all 281 units at Island Village will remain affordable through December 21st, 2060 for households with low income. And the San Diego Housing Commission will continue to monitor compliance with all applicable covenants and regulatory requirements regarding the property's affordability. Next is the approval of the minutes of the January 23rd, 2025 meetings of both the HDP and HDP Mason boards. No speaker slips have been submitted regarding the minutes. First, we will consider the HDP board meeting minutes. Do any board members have any changes to the minutes, or do we have a motion?
Second.
Right, all right. We have a motion from Board Member Klumper and a second from Board Member Gramling. Thank you. So that's the approval for the minutes for the January 23rd, 2025 HDP board meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously. We will now adjourn as the HDP board and convene as the HDP Mason board to vote on the HDP Mason board meeting minutes of the January 23rd, 2025 meeting. May we use the same motion and second for the HDP Mason board meeting minutes? Yes. Wonderful. We have a motion by Member Kumpner and a second by Member Gramling to approve the minutes from the HDP Mason board meeting of January 23rd, 2025. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. The motion carries unanimously. We will now adjourn as the HDP Mason board and reconvene as the HDP board. And I will just take a breath. All right, here we go. As I mentioned earlier, this morning I am proposing placing item 100 from the HDP board agenda on the consent agenda. This is the approval of the HDP board meetings 2026 meeting schedule. No speaker slips have been submitted for this item. Do any board members have any comments or questions, or do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
So moved. We have a motion by Member Gramling and a second by Member Klumpner to approve the HDP board's consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. All those opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously. We will now reconvene as both the HDP and HDP Mason boards. As I mentioned at the start of today's meeting, we will first be hearing the proposed 2026 property budgets for the properties in HDP portfolio and HDP Mason. These are items 102 through 113 on the HDP board agenda and item 100 on the HDP Mason board agenda. We will take public comments on these items after the staff presentation. We will have one staff presentation for all these items, which Vice President of Asset Management Emmanuel Arellano and Director of Asset Management Brandon Sarkisian will present. I did want to note the reason we're taking these out of order. We're doing all the property budgets first because there are receipts from the property budgets that roll up into the HDP overall budget for sort of the larger entity. So we thought it makes sense to hear these first because some of this rolls up or is reflected in the final budget we will hear today. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Please begin when you're ready.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Lisa, board members and legal counsel. Thank you for your time today. Brandon and I will be presenting the proposed 2026 operating budgets for both HDP and HDP Mason. I'll begin by providing an overview of the projected financial performance of the real estate portfolio for 2026. Brandon will then walk you through the key components of the budget, including anticipated total operating income, total operating expenses, and the continued efforts by our team to support both the financial health and physical preservation of the HDP and HDP Mason properties. We'll conclude with the staff report recommendations as outlined in the accompanying reports. For 2026, we are projecting total income of approximately $24.4 million, representing a 4% increase over the 2025 budget. Total operating expenses are projected at $11.5 million, or approximately $10,733 per unit per year, which reflects an 8% increase compared to 2025. Brandon will provide further detail, but the primary drivers of this increase include higher maintenance and repair costs, enhanced protective services, and rising property management and ground lease expenses. The projected net operating income, or NOI, for the portfolio is $12.8 million, or $11,947 per unit per year, which is consistent with the 2025 budgeted NOI. After accounting for debt service and other entity-level expenses, we anticipate a net cash flow of $8 million. These funds will be used to pay residual receipt loans and fulfill other required distributions. We estimate that $1.1 million will be distributed to HDP to support future operating needs. With that, I'll turn it over to Brandon, who will provide a deeper dive into the key factors driving the projected increases in both the operating income and expenses.
Great, thank you, Emmanuel. Hello, everyone. I'm going to start by walking through what is contributing to the increases in the 2026 budgeted gross income. As Emmanuel stated, we'll see roughly a 4% increase in the 2026 budget from prior years for this line item. This increase is driven primarily by budgeting for up to an 8.8% rent increase for eligible unit and properties, which complies with Assembly Bill 1482. Additionally, for our project-based voucher units, a rent increase will not be budgeted since our PBV units are already at maximum allowable rent by the already at maximum allowable rent by the program, and no future increases to the payment standards are expected. I will note that the PBV units make up approximately 57% of the HDP portfolio. Next, I will discuss the contributions to the increase in budgeted operating expenses. Operating expenses are budgeted to increase roughly 8%. The primary drivers of this increase are related to admin expenses, which increased due to filling a vacant property manager position at our property West Park, maintenance and repair expenses, which increased due to increased costs related to maintaining and preserving our aging portfolio, and protective services or security expenses, which increased due to adding additional services to maintain the safety and security of our communities, primarily at Quality Inn and West Park, which are permanent supportive housing or PSH properties. With efforts to continue to reduce expenses, HDP will utilize available programs like the Utility Savings Program CARE, which is ran through SDG&E, appliance and weatherization upgrade rebates, which is run through programs like the Multifamily Energy Savings Program. Additionally, HDP will continue to identify efforts to reduce costs for the portfolio throughout the 2026 year. There comes some unique operating challenges when it comes to operating the HDP portfolio, specifically with the PSH units and properties, which make up 1/3 of the HDP portfolio at a property level. These units can result in higher operating expenses such as security costs, property repairs, and turnover expenses. Bless you. HDP Asset Management will continue improving and maintaining the physical performance and physical condition of the properties by closely monitoring monthly financial performance and providing timely intervention if any negative trends are identified. We will do this by continuing to support housing stability by maintaining a high occupancy rate. The current occupancy rate of the portfolio is at 97%. We will be leasing vacant commercial spaces that we have available, one at Hotel Churchill and at Mason. We will be maintaining efforts on cost and containment. And lastly, provide oversight on the physical condition of the properties. Staff recommends that the HDP and HDP Mason Board of Directors approve the 2026 property budgets as detailed in the staff reports for the properties shown on this slide.
And with that, before we open it up for questions, I'd like to thank the asset management team and the financial services team for their hard work behind these budgets. This is a multi-month effort that we start in the summer every year with a lot of analysis and number crunching behind the numbers you just saw this morning. So thank you all for your help.
Absolutely. I think it's a very simple presentation that gets to what we need to see, but there's a whole lot behind it. I just also want to thank the team for getting to that 97% occupancy rate. That's great, especially when, we have PSH, which is 1/3 of our portfolio. And when we're looking at referrals to come in, that referral timeline can take a while, right? So we can see some challenges as we move people in. So I think that's terrific. Before I go to board member questions, I also just want to note this sort of challenge that we're seeing in the HCV program at SDHC doesn't just impact SDHC's voucher program. It also impacts HDP's portfolio, right? It impacts our developer partners' portfolio. It impacts SDHC's portfolio. So when those vouchers aren't strong, that trickles out into not only our own resources, on the other side of the fence where we're operating units, as an affiliate and as SDHC, but it also impacts the community as well, which is why we've done such robust outreach around this to our development partners and industry. So it's great that you've tried to find a balance and understand that you're taking into that account, knowing that we can't assume those kind of cost escalators right now. So thanks for still bringing us a balanced budget when we're taking that into consideration. And then I'll just pass it off to any questions or comments from the board.
I thought I pushed it. I apologize. So do we still have 24-hour a day?
At Churchill, we do. There's 24/7 coverage, whether it's the property management staff or nighttime security. At Mason, if I'm not mistaken, we also have it's a partial coverage during the day because the manager oversees other assets as well, but also nighttime security, roving security.
Okay. And So if someone wants to get into the Churchill, someone who's living there, how do they access it during the night?
After hours, they'll have to check in with the security guard at the front desk so they can be granted access to their guests or the residents that they're visiting.
Okay.
Also, we have access control on the front door, so they have a key card. All the
Okay.
residents have a key card to access the building itself, and then they have their own individual keys for their units.
All right. And the security that's on those two properties in particular, they're unarmed, aren't they? Okay.
That's correct.
And then you mentioned leasing, commercial leasing of space there at both Churchill and Mason. And I'm trying to picture what kind of tenants would we get, commercial tenants would we get at Churchill?
Right now, we're in talks with a company that does education for going into physical therapy, not physical therapy,
Medical field.
not medical field, but was it PT, personal training.
Mm.
So they get, they have a big push with veterans, and they get them educated and then get them certifications to become a personal trainer. They're able to start their own business. This is all information I talked with their CEO. They're going to let us know next week if that's something they want to continue with. They're going through their ownership channel, and then we'll start negotiating on a commercial lease if that's something that's going to proceed. But hopefully something, continuing education, something like that would be a great fit there.
Do we have space at Churchill for physical training?
I mean, it's their business. They feel like they do. So I think if they're comfortable with it, we're comfortable with it.
Okay, me too. Thanks.
Any other comments? All right. Thank you so much. I think I have notes I'm supposed to read now. All right. Let's see. No speaker SIPs have been submitted for items 102 through 113 on the HDP board agenda and item 100 on HDP Mason board agenda. So this concludes the public comment period for these items. We will first consider items 102 through 113 on the HDP board agenda. Board members, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Klumpner, and do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And a second, did I say Commissioner? I did, didn't I? It's hard not to do that. By Member Gramling, to approve items 102 through 113 on the HDP board agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously. We will now adjourn as the HDP board to convene as the HDP Mason board. May we use the same motion and second for items 100 on the HDP Mason agenda board agenda? We have a motion by Member Klumpner and a second by Member Gramling to approve item 100 on the HDP Mason board agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously. Now we will adjourn as the HDP Mason board and reconvene as the HDP board to consider item 101 on the HDP board agenda. This is HDP's 2026 operating budget. We will take public comments after the staff presentation. Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer Suket Dayal and Vice President of Real Estate Finance Julie Conserva will present this item. Please begin when you're ready.
Thank you and good morning. There we go. So Housing Development Partners, HDP, is a San Diego Housing Commission nonprofit affiliate incorporated in 1990 to provide affordable housing and services for people with low to moderate income, seniors, and individuals with disabilities. As Lisa mentioned, we had the earlier presentation that talked about our individual properties, and now we're going to talk about Housing Development Partners as a whole. Our portfolio consists of 24 properties with 1,438 affordable units. 370 of these units are dedicated for people experiencing homelessness. I want to talk real quick about how the fiscal magic works. Housing Development Partner HDP's financial activities are incorporated into the San Diego Housing Commission's annual comprehensive financial report, which we call ACFR, and then the Housing Commission's ACFR, which includes HDP financials, is then incorporated into the city's annual comprehensive financial report. Our presentation will cover HDP's budget for 2026. So Housing Development Partners' proposed budget includes revenue, operating expenses, and capital expenditures and fund balance transfers. The $5.2 million in revenue includes receipts from cash flows from rental properties and partnership management fees. Additional cash flow stems from increases in payment standards that SDHC implemented in fiscal year 2025. One project highlight is Casa Colina, which has a direct contract with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, to assist residents with their rent. Unlike our usual project-based voucher program, San Diego Housing Commission does not administer that assistance. The HUD contract recently completed a 5-year renewal, which included a market rent adjustment. Do want to point out the family contribution towards the contract rent at Casa Colina did not change. Looking ahead, revenue is expected to remain flat due to we're noticing a little bit of a stabilizing in the rental market. Total proposed uses of funds include operating expenses of $2.9 million. That covers salaries and professional services and administrative expenses. This includes funding for approximately 9 staff positions. That's consistent with prior year's allocations. The budget also includes a $10 million allocation from unspent acquisition funds rolled over from the previous year for a potential new property acquisition aimed at creating and preserving affordable housing units. Our city, as we all know, continues to experience a shortage of affordable rental housing units. A potential new property acquisition would support ongoing efforts to create and preserve affordable housing necessary to address the shortage. And with that, I'll pass it on to Julie.
We will now review proposed sources and uses of funds. On the sources side, in addition to the new revenue mentioned in the previous slide, the total beginning fund balance is projected at $19.8 million, with total sources amounting to $25 million. On the uses side, after accounting for operating expenses and the proposed acquisition or preservation of affordable housing, the ending fund balance is projected at $11.9 million, of which $7 million is reserved for board commitments and required reserves. The reserves include $1.4 million for the corporate operating reserve, $1.7 for the property reserve required to guarantee operating shortfalls for the rental properties where HDP acts as a general partner, $1.4 million in board-approved commitments supporting affordable housing developments, $600,000 for a project reserve to address short-term funding gaps due to timing differences in funding sources, and $1.3 million for capital improvement reserve to address shortfalls in property replacement reserves. We are recommending that the board take the action shown in the staff report on this slide. That concludes our presentation, and we're available for questions.
Do we have board member comments or questions? There we go. Do we have a motion?
You're so moved.
We have a motion from Member Klumpner and a second from Member Gramling to approve item 101. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously. That concludes our action items for today. Do any board members have any questions about the informational items listed on today's agenda for either the HDP or HDP Mason?
As usual, they've been busy.
There's plenty to do these days. This concludes the HDP and HDP Mason board meetings today. Thank you, staff, for your time, and thank you, board members, for making time available for us.